I met Lauren in 2010, so that was early on. It was my second year into triathlon, and she literally said to me, "I'll give you 2 more years. If you don't get a sponsor, I'm out of here."
Welcome to the Rhinoplasty podcast with me, Dr. Cameron McIntosh. So today is a bonus track number 2. We have got a special guest in the studio. It's actually my own studio. Check this out today for the first time. This is actually one of my patients. I operated on him a few years ago, and he happens to be the African champion in triathlon. Carl Buckingham, such a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's awesome to be here.
So, Carl, there's so much to chat about. I mean, obviously, we want to know a little bit more about the nose and stuff, but kicking it off, lockdown 365 days ago today.
Yeah, no, can you believe it? It feels like we've lost a year, literally. It's been a whirlwind of 365 days, but yeah, just try and get through it, and hopefully the end is near.
Yeah, man, I've got so much respect for you guys because, like, a decade ago, I was a pro athlete. I was an Olympic canoeist, and you always spoke about 2 kinds of people who love training and people who love racing. And I know you're a racing snake. You love racing. You want to perform, and the training is pleasurable, and it's a part of that. But actually, you're built for racing. You're not built for training. But you've had a year of training. I mean, when last did you compete?
Yeah, lucky enough, I competed last year in November. But before that, it was January, before the lockdown happened in March. So only 2 races last year. So it's been really tough because I'll have to travel overseas, I'll have to race, the top guys, and we just hope I can get overseas this year and get racing on the international circuit.
Yeah, man. Yes, I tell you, I don't know how you guys do it. So looking at your year to come, I mean, there's a lot of instability in terms of COVID, but there's also something very exciting because apparently in 9 weeks' time, you and Lauren become parents.
Yeah, I know. It's lots of exciting times ahead. We're expecting a little one. We don't know what it is, so it's going to be a surprise. It's going to be a surprise when the baby's born, of what gender it's going to be. So yeah, we can't wait. Things are going to definitely change. But it's going to be fun, and maybe it will make me race even harder. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I feel sorry for the competitors. You're going to in the hurt box for long.
Yeah.
So Carl, let's chat a little bit about your nose now, okay? Because when we first met a couple of years ago, you came to me with 2 complaints in terms of the nose, and it's really important. There's always like a medical side and a surgical side.
Mm.
And on the medical side, it was this recurrent sinus infections and allergies and nasal mucosal problems and everything. But on the surgical side, we had what is called internal nasal valve collapse. And basically, when you were breathing in, especially when you're going hard, the sides of your nose were falling down. And we ended up actually doing an operation for you where, very similar to the Breathe Right strips, which many athletes use, we actually implanted a titanium Breathe Right strip, as it were, inside your nose. So on the surgical side, we stopped this nose from collapsing so that you can hopefully breathe better when you are breathing, working at hard exertion. So in terms of just touching about the surgical side, tell the listeners what that was like. How was the operation for you, and how are things now since the operation?
Yeah, so the operation went extremely well. I was literally only out of training for, or let's say bike and run for like 5 days. Swimming, I couldn't swim for about 2 weeks, but the operation went really smoothly, and the recovery was amazing. And then I've noticed a difference straight away when everything was fixed up and the stitches were out and my nose was all cleaned up, that I was able to actually breathe through my nose. And it was weird because I've never been able to breathe through my nose at all. I think we had like 10% or something airflow through my nose. And so the reason, it all came about why I wanted to get it done is because I used to get a lot of stitches and I couldn't get enough air into my lungs. Especially on the bike, I would be shallow breathing, and I couldn't open up my lungs, and I couldn't actually breathe in. And also in the pool, like I used to breathe out through my mouth in the water, but you're supposed to breathe out with your nose and breathe in with your mouth when you take a breath. So, and since then, it's been incredible. My wife even says I'm breathing through my nose when I sleep, so which is awesome because I used to just breathe through my mouth, and so it's been an awesome way forward.
Well, that's great. I mean, the big thing is, guys need to understand that it's so much about your recovery, not so much your training, your performance. And so breathing through the nose helps not only in training and in racing, but also in recovery. So we were chatting just before we got into the studio about quite a dramatic change that you've gone through in the last couple of years, where you've moved away from like an omnivore diet.
Yeah.
And that has changed things dramatically. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so about 1 year and 10 months, I made the switch into more of a plant-based way of eating. Sometimes, I still have eggs and some cheese. I'm not going to say no to a pizza or something like that. But 95% of my diet is very plant-based, lots of veggies, loads of beans, rice, sweet potato for the carbs and all that kind of stuff. But the reason why I made the switch is I've been doing a lot of research on a lot of the top professional athletes out there. And a lot of them are following a plant-based diet. Tennis players, Formula One drivers, even athletes in our sports, the guys that are at the top that have won Ironman World Championships in Kona. Some of them are on a vegetarian or even a vegan diet. So I made the switch, and literally within about 2 weeks, I could notice a difference just with my recovery, but my energy levels throughout the day were amazing. Like I wasn't ever flat, and I don't know, but it's also been like eating, like we try and organic as much as possible. It's really hard to go fully organic because you just sometimes it's impossible to get a few things that are organic. But we try and as much as possible get a variety of vegetables and fruit. But you also just feel good about yourself when you're eating this stuff and with a lot of color. Because I've tried numerous diets. I was on keto for a whole year. It was a very hard diet as an athlete to follow. And in my opinion, it wasn't sustainable. To be in ketosis for 365 days a year is nearly impossible unless you're extremely strict. And I also just found that I didn't have that top end. And as soon as I went off keto, I won Ironman African Champs, and I was straight back on the carbs. And then I looked at it, and then I look at all the top professionals around the world. I don't know any top professionals that are actually ketogenic that are at are setting the bar. So it's been and so I'm not going. I've decided that just with all the traveling and going airports and you're in Airbnbs and you just can't. It's really hard diet to maintain.
Yes. Okay, so 2 questions come out of that for me. The first one is racing. What do you use when you're racing? And the second one is, have you been able to get some kind of sponsorship with this whole vegetarian lifestyle you're living?
Yeah, so with racing, I've been racing for the last like a year, 2 years on Powerball, and it always worked for me, and I always stick to around about 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight per hour. So I try and get in around about anywhere between 100 and 120 grams of carbs per hour because I'm about 72 kgs. And that's really worked for me. I mean, I used to try and have 60 grams per hour when I was on the keto to try and be in a more fat-burning state for a long-distance Ironman. But I just I didn't have that intensity on the bike to make those moves. And you got to be able to, like a car, you got to be able to go from gear 1 into gear 6 and not from gear 1 into gear 3. Yeah. And that's what I found. That was the main differences was I was gear 3 and that's all I could do. But I couldn't put in a 15-minute surge and get to the front group because I didn't have that.
Okay.
I couldn't train in those zones in training on the ketogenic diet. So that's why made the switch, and I think it's so much better for me, and and a lot of professional athletes are
And in terms of support for this, like, Powerbar, one of your sponsors?
Yeah, Powerbar, one of my sponsors. And then I approached Fry's family. They are a meat-free alternative food. So they've been really supportive. Their products are fantastic. They fully 100% non-GMO. They source their soy and products from overseas, and they've been a massive help as well to for just the ease of things. If you still want to have a braai, you can still put a plant-based meat-free burger or patty on the braai and things like that. So that's been really awesome being with them as well. So
that's cool. But now, Carl, how have you sustained your sponsors? I mean, clearly you've only done one race in the last 12 months. Who the guys are helping you, and what is your future in terms of trying to get back overseas and take part in? Apparently, there's a new triathlon series you were telling me about earlier.
Yeah, so sponsors have been it's been really hard. This whole kind of thing has thrown a massive spanner in the works because there's no races. A lot of the companies, don't have the budget to sponsor athletes or sponsor a lot of athletes. Maybe they can keep a few on. But I've had some really loyal sponsors, for 8 years. Santini, Cycle Wear and Triathlon Wear have been with me for 8 years, since, my first year as a pro, 2014. And On Running Shoes, they're based out of Switzerland. I've also been with them for 8 years, and, I've got a bike company as well that support me with my bikes, Diamond Bikes, over in America.
I've seen some of your photos on Instagram.
Yeah,
so proper.
Yeah, and they're always reinventing the wheel when it comes to aerodynamics on the bike, and so I'm riding the new design. So I've got some amazing support by a lot of companies, and massive shout out as well to Velocity Sports Lab. They're based out of Hout Bay in Cape Town, and my sponsorship came to an end of last year, but he was with me for 9 years. So it was, Trevor was, thank you so much if you ever watch this, but he changed my life. He sponsored me since I was an age grouper. So 2012, we moved back from the UK, back to South Africa, back to Cape Town, and my journey started from there. And then going back to your second question, sorry, rambling on a bit, but I'm hoping to go overseas because it's where all the races are happening. America, the races are happening, but we're having a few visa. We're waiting for our visa to go over to the States. So that's been a wait for us, and there's this massive PTO, professional triathlon organization, that are supporting races even locally. If you can't travel overseas, they supported a race here in Port Elizabeth, the People's Triathlon, last year in November, and they supporting triathlon massively. It's incredible what they're actually doing for our sport. And I'm lucky I've got another 5-6 years in the sport, so I'm glad to be around at this moment in time with someone like this on board with the PTO.
I think also one of the kind of blessings, I guess, of not traveling this year has been the amount of time you and Lauren spent together, because I know she is integral part of you and who you are and how you train and your racing and stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Lauren's been a massive support. Since 2014 or 2013 when I started, transitioning into pro. Because it's a team thing. It would be really hard to do it by yourself individually, because you do a 6-7 hour training day, and you come home and you still got to cook food, and you still got to. Now I'm lucky Lauren's a massage therapist as well, so it's been an incredible support. And now with the little one on the way, it's going to be even awesome to just share that experience with the little one when we travel overseas. And we've loved our travels. We've been spending 6 months out of the year every year in America for the last 6 years. So we can't wait to take the little one along and strap it to the back.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So, Carl, let's just change track slightly here. I'm interested to know what your change in terms of your diet has done to your nasal symptoms on the medical side of things, because we touched base on the operation we did in helping you, but how has it changed you in terms of how are you doing medically with your upper respiratory tract and your lower respiratory tract?
Yeah, so I got the nose fixed, and it was amazing. Like, I was able to breathe my nose, breathe in, breathe out, and always when I ran, it was just, or cycled, it was breathe in and out through my mouth. But every single morning I used to wake up, go for a ride, and I used to have a really congested nose, and it was terrible. I mean, and somebody, a reflexologist, said to me, "Why don't you stop dairy and see how you go?" Literally stopped dairy, and within 2 days, I had no congestion at all in my nose. I could breathe in through my nose in the mornings. If I was on dairy, it would go away. I wasn't congested like after lunchtime, but most of my sessions are in the morning. So swimming, cycling, are mostly in the morning, and I stopped dairy straight away, and I haven't gone back. So that's been really awesome. And going back, actually, when the reason why I wanted to get my nose done is when I couldn't. I wanted to try these breathe right strips. So Lauren and I used to go around to we used to go to the chemists in America and find the strongest breathe right strips to put on my nose before races. And I see a lot of professionals racing with them. And I tell you what, it was such a difference. But we had to really stick it on. We had to get this, because in the swim it could come off. So we really had to put a little bit of skin glue, and that's why one of the reasons why I contacted you, and just to see if we could do something, because the difference it made to my race and my run split as well was phenomenal.
Nice.
No stitches. So
It's lekker. It's great for me to see how athletes can improve, with just simple things. So Kyle, let's change track again now, and this is more for, I want to ask you 3 kind of things. The one is for the lighties, the little guys who are just getting into triathlon. What's your message to those kids?
So I like I did. I started at the age of 24, so very, very late. And the biggest thing I did was dream big, because I was 24 years old. I'd never run before. I never cycled. The only swimming I did was on a surfboard, and that's all I did. Back at school, I didn't really do any sports. I did a lot of surfing and skateboarding and things like that. I played the odd tennis game and cricket game. Yeah. But my message to anyone out there, if you don't play sports at school, that doesn't mean that you can't ever be sporty. And I took up triathlon just by living in a house share with 5 guys in London. I was working in London as an electrician, and one of the guys was training for an Ironman, and I was like, this is crazy. He's going for 7-hour rides down to Brighton and back, and then he would run off the bike for an hour, and then the next day he'd run 3 hours, and I'm thinking, no, this is nuts. And he gave me a book to read, and I got hooked, and I was like, bought a bike, and got a free program online, and bought a pair of running shoes, and then I trained. So I would never say if you're not sporty, or you at the moment and you're just playing TV games or whatever, you can still do anything. You just got to believe, but the main thing is you got to work hard. And I think a lot of people don't realize is that when I started triathlon, I used to train 4 hours after work. So I used to get home and around 5:30, finish work at 4. So I was lucky I didn't finish work at 5, but I used to work 8 to 4, get home at 5, and I used to literally get off the bike or the run at 9:30 at night. And I remember sleeping on the way in the car to work. My brother used to fetch me because we worked together. He used to fetch me. I used to sleep in the car going to work, and I used to sleep on the way home just to get a nap in, because it was everywhere in London was 45 to an hour commute, whether it was on the train. I missed so many train stops, because I used to fall asleep and then end up at Wimbledon and on the end of the line. So it was a mission. Lauren, and then I met Lauren I met Lauren in 2010, so that was early on, as my second year into triathlon, and she literally said to me, I'll give you 2 more years. If you don't get a sponsor, I'm out of here, or you stop triathlon, because I never see you. It's 4 hours every evening. It's 6 hours on the bike to Brighton and back in the cold.
Yeah.
And I trained hard. I was training 25 hours a week as an age group, or working 8 hours,
Jeez.
8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then lucky enough, I got the opportunity with sponsor, with Velocity, to come back to Howard Bay. And I worked in the gym for 4 hours, and I was able to train more and recover better.
Yeah.
And then, 2013 was a breakthrough year for me. And I was still working 4 hours a day, but, I won everything in my age group, and then won the Ironman World Champs in Kona overall age group, and had the record for 5 years until like 2 years ago it got broken. But, it's hard work and dedication, and just dream big.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's been the single hardest, most difficult, or most disappointing moment in your career?
Sure. I think, and there's a lot of them, it's not just single, it's like 5 times or 4 times I've gone to Kona as a pro and not been able to fulfill. I still think I still had a better race as an age group in 2013, where everything just clicked.
Yeah.
It's such a demanding race on your body, and everything's got to go right for you to make that top 10, because you're racing 50 guys, 55 guys. And they're the best. And it's just been upsetting to leave the island knowing that you weren't able to. Times are irrelevant because you have a good time, but if you're going to come 20th or 25th, you're not going to be stoked. Not with what you put in.
Yeah.
And it's upsetting, because when you put in 35 hours a week of training, and then it comes down to one race, and you put in a 16-week block, and then it comes down to one race of an 8-hour day, and nothing clicks, then it's just it's demotivating. But then 2 weeks later, you want to come back and do it again. So it's I think those 20. I wouldn't say 2014, because that was my first year as a pro, and I had advice not to do Kona, but I was stubborn enough to do it. I'd already won my first ever full Ironman as a pro in my first year in Lake Placid in New York, and then Rio Rhinoplasty, my first ever coach, said to me, I wouldn't advise doing Kona. They're too close together. But I was like, it's my first year, I want to go. And so I went, and so I don't regret that one. It was just, that was experience. But 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 was my best year. 17, I went into Kona lying 7th in the world. I came fourth at Ironman South Africa, and I came second at Ironman South American Championships. And I was lying 7th in the world coming into Kona. So that was, I thought I was in top form. And then, it just didn't go well. And then 2018, I won Ironman African Champs, my biggest win to date. Had an amazing day. It's just like when someone says you walked on water that day, that's exactly what you, like, I was feeling still amazing at halfway on the marathon, that kind of day, when you just everything. And I thought that year, things are just gonna, click, and got to Kona and didn't happen. So it was a bit bummed. And going into Kona, then I was lying 8th. So those 2 years, I just had phenomenal years, and 2019 was a massive setback for me. Like, just nothing went well. Ironman African Champs happened. I cramped for the first time ever. I don't normally cramp because I don't sweat much salt. I don't sweat much salt at all. I've been tested, which I'm really lucky. But I had cramps on the bike, and I had to withdraw. Like, I literally couldn't pedal. And then I tried to go over to Texas, and I got sick before the race, and I still did the race, which wasn't actually smart in my opinion. Like, I had a few people saying on my Instagram that was not smart. One doctor even commented and said, no, that wasn't a good idea, racing with bronchitis. And I got a Kona slot, but couldn't go to Kona in 2019 because of visa issues, and we're still waiting. And that was a massive setback, because I did Italy and Barcelona, and both didn't have good races. I fell at one of the races, and the other race I just bombed. So it's been 2019's also been, so I'm itching to get back on the race course.
Yeah, but Carl, that's great. I mean, I look back, I tried 96 Olympics. I took another 3 years for 2000, for 2004, finally 2008. I think people sometimes think it's just easy. It's not. It's that thing of working every single minute of every day for your life for what you want to get to. So, yeah, man.
And a lot of people, I've seen it, I've seen it with the amateurs, and there's no disrespect that, but I just find sometimes a lot of people want shortcuts.
Yes.
If they want the best of, put in the hard work first and do that after, you 90% of it is your hard work and dedication. And my biggest advice would be is get advice from people that have gone there. I admire all these guys wanting to go pro and stuff. And but if I was an amateur, I would be asking pros. I'd be knocking on my doors saying, "What did you do? How did you go about?" And I'm willing to give the advice. I'm just you just want to share that knowledge, but you also want people to make the right choices and for themselves. So.
Oh, well, Carl, it's fantastic. It's been so good to chat to you, and thank you for allowing people to reach. What's the best? To reach out through your Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram. I've got a Facebook athlete account as well. A website, and but mainly on Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram at the moment, and just trying to grow that social media and things like that.
Right. Well, from all the listeners of the Rhinoplasty podcast around the world, and people are listening to this from in every continent. On behalf of them, I want to wish you good luck. I really hope that you get to Kona and you don't just have a great race, you have the race of your life.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for just all the stuff you can share with people. And Carl, good luck for your racing, and good luck for becoming a dad.
Thanks so much. Thanks. Awesome.